Ilkay Gundogan has today joined Barcelona. That is a fact. It is a thing. Hello there, everybody. Adam Cleary from FourFourTwo here. And if you're a Manchester City fan sitting at home right now, wondering why on earth your club has just allowed its captain, coming off the back of what's probably been his best ever season for them, to just leave for nothing, then, well, I am here to tell you that it might not be as black and white as that. Owing to a clause in his contract, there is a possibility, and a surprisingly plausible one at that come the start of the new season, he might be a Manchester City player again. Yep. Alright, so just to lay something out very, very quickly, he has definitely 100% signed for Barcelona. He's got the shirt, that's done, it's happened. But the thing is, while signing a player is all well and good, there are several other steps required before they can actually play for your team. And given Barcelona's recent track record with a number of these steps, there still feels like there's actually quite a long way to go. The context for this story, though, is that fundamentally Gundogan didn't really want to leave Man City. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure he's delighted to have joined Barcelona. He's going to give everything to that project. It's a great move for him, but given his options, it was probably his second choice. Earlier in the season, say about like February, March sort of time, City were cruising towards this treble, and at the very heart of it was, yeah, your De Bruyne, your Haalands, but Gundogan was playing fantastically. As a result, and under the direct instruction of Pep Guardiola himself, Manchester City club officials approached Gundogan's representatives and said, look, your contract is running out at the end of this season. Would you be interested in sitting down and thrashing out an extension? And they said, yes we would. And the Guardiola point's actually quite important here, because there's going to be a lot of talk this summer about there being a clear out and him wanting to keep the squad fresh and wanting to move players on. He did not want to lose Gundogan. In fact, there was a great report done in The Athletic a few months ago. Guardiola sat down with some of his nearest and dearest on a rare day off. I think he took him to a restaurant or something, and the conversation inevitably turned to, so are you just going to let your captain leave for free this summer? And his response was, right now, he is too important to allow that to happen. We need to keep him at the club. We can't afford to let him go, was apparently the exact words he used.
We cannot replace him. We cannot.
So, yes, anyway, City's people sit down with Gundogan's people and they offer him a 1-year contract extension on slightly less money than he was currently on. And this was a problem. But the problem wasn't the money, the problem was the 1-year element of the deal. Gundogan is 32, he's probably only got one major sort of move left in him in Europe, but more important than that is he's just had a child and he wanted some stability. Knowing where he's going to be playing his football for the next year is obviously great and that's important, but what he really wanted to know was where he's going to be playing his football in the next 2, possibly even 3 years. Might sound basic, but if you've got a young child, you don't want to be moving them all the way across Europe when they're 2 or 3 years old if you can possibly help it. So that's what's going on with Manchester around March or April sort of time, and this alerts Barcelona to the possibility that, Gundogan's not actually massively happy with the offer he's getting. He might be available for us in the summer. Now, again, for all Gundogan's first choice was to remain in Manchester, Barcelona's first choice was to re-sign Lionel Messi. But again, as the noises started to come out of Messi's camp, and indeed confidence was growing in America that he was going to sign over there, they realised that they probably needed a plan B, or better yet, a better plan than simply re-signing Messi. Is there a younger, more adaptable player we could perhaps get for way less money? And thus Gundogan's absolutely perfect. Like, Barcelona's financial troubles, which, don't worry, we're going to get to in a minute, mean that not spending a massive outlay of a transfer fee is great, and also not having to spend Lionel Messi level wages is great. Combine all that with the obvious ability, pedigree, and experience Gundogan has, and he is the perfect signing for them this summer. Now this then, as you can imagine, just starts going back and forward all the time, and there's little bits here and little bits there. They're largely pretty irrelevant to all of this, but the important part is that round about the time Barcelona offered him a 2-year contract, City beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League, where Gundogan looked like an absolute star, and this forced Pep Guardiola to step in and tell the club to make him an improved offer. Look at this man, we don't want to lose him for nothing. And over time they did, but the best they would offer him was like slightly more money than he's on now, if not just the same salary, and a 2-year contract, but only with the second year being an option for the club. So guaranteed 1 year, option to extend for a second. Now that obviously offers a lot of things, but one thing it doesn't offer is stability. And thus, that is exactly where we have landed. Gundogan has not signed that contract with Manchester City. He has left and he has signed with Barcelona instead. And yes, it is being reported that Barcelona offered him slightly more money, but I can't stress enough, that's not what the thinking was in this decision at all. Gundogan, and pretty much any other player available this summer that you would care to name, was offered absolutely astronomical sums of money to go to the Saudi League. And obviously, he would get a longer term contract there. He would get more money. There's loads of stability there, but he signed with Barcelona because it's Barcelona. And just to sweeten the deal even more, Barcelona's 2-year contract offer then became a 2-year contract offer with the option to extend for a third. And no doubt there'll be loads of discussion about the appeal of going to do a new project, to live in a new city, to have a new great life experience, but the belief coming out of Man City today, according to reports, is that they think if they just offered him that second year, they probably would have kept him. But anyway, that's the context of the story. What is the actual story? Well, fundamentally, right now, Gundogan is a Barcelona player. That is not up for debate. But for him to actually play for Barcelona, he needs to first be registered. So this could be a whole video in of itself, but I'll just give you the cliff notes. Barcelona are in major financial trouble because of the way they are funded, the way they are structured, and the fact that La Liga brought in what is effectively a salary cap last season. This meant that at one stage last summer, there was a genuine possibility they would not be able to register any of their new summer signings for La Liga because they simply did not have room in the budget for them to play. Now, you may remember all this talk of pulling levers and doing things and selling off loads of assets to make the money work. In the end, they did find a way to do it, but this has rumbled on all season to the point where they were nearly going to have to let Gavi leave on a free because the new contract they'd given him to sign didn't fit within the budget. But again, going into the new season, they are almost entirely maxed out. They are going to find it very, very difficult to register new players, and this was reportedly one of the major issues that stopped Messi returning to the club. Like, of course he wanted to go back to Barcelona. Of course going to MLS was a second choice, but Barcelona were confident of being able to pay for him, of being able to afford him. They just did not have a concrete plan in place for how they would register him. And it's all well and good just saying, oh, we'll sell loads of players and it'll be fine, but you've got to have other clubs actually come in for these players. Like, look at poor Frankie de Jong last season. They were convinced they'd just get rid of him and nobody stumped up the cash. And of course, Ilkay Gundogan and his representatives are not stupid. There is a possibility he could sign for Barcelona but not get registered ahead of the new season and just spend the first 6 months of his contract doing nothing. And thus today, following very quietly in the wake of the news of his announcement, is the news reported to The Athletic and several other outlets that there is a clause in Ilkay Gundogan's contract that means should Barcelona fail to be able to register him ahead of the new La Liga season, he would be allowed to leave on a free, just tear up the contract, go wherever he wants, become a free agent before the end of the transfer window and still be paid the first full year of his salary as compensation. That, or more the fact that that has to even exist in the first place for one of the biggest clubs in the world, is f***ing nuts. Now, it's worth pointing out, of course, that Barcelona will have given him all number of assurances that this won't be the case, that he probably wouldn't have signed if he thought there was a substantial chance of this happening, but that doesn't change the fact there is still a chance. Barcelona's financial problems are not going to go away. They are going to have to juggle things very cleverly in order to register any player this summer, and if any part of that starts to fall apart, it could happen. There is then a possibility, albeit, yes, an outside possibility, and what would ultimately be one of the craziest stories in football history, that Ilkay Gundogan spends the whole summer in Barcelona and then repacks all of his bags and goes back to Manchester. Now, do I personally think that's going to happen? I mean, no, not really, but that is the only transfer this summer where that could even happen, so you can't dismiss it. Anyway, best of luck to everybody involved. That's what I always say, but let us know what you make of it all in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to us here on 442. It is the best football YouTube channel in the world, I think. In the meantime, you can catch me on Twitter at Adam Cleary, C-L-E-R-Y, and of course 442 across the entire social spectrum at 442, the brand new magazine of which is available now from all good retailers, and yes, the crap ones too. Until next time though, thank you very much for watching. Yep, that's it. That's all I got. Goodbye.